Hey everyone, for this month we're going to take a look at fields. Fields are special little information grabbers in AutoCAD that can be made into part of your text, and instead of having to type in something manually and look things up, it'll just look up whatever it can in the drawing for you. Whatever you've set it to go ferret out, it'll go find it and it'll update it automatically. I'm going to put that in air quotes because we'll get into that a little bit later. But you may be familiar with a similar concept from Microsoft Excel, Office products in general. They'll have fields that you can use to grab the date and time and page number and automatically update. And so you don't have to manually renumber all your pages if you insert another one into the middle or something like that. Similar concept here, just a little more powerful because there is so much information that AutoCAD has access to. So let's get started with a very simple example of a field. Like I said, they can go into text, and that includes pretty much all kinds of text. So we're going to start with some multi-line text, M-text, our good old friend M-text. I'm going to type a little Z on this line, just so when I enter out of here, you can see that it is indeed multi-line text, and I'm not trying to cheat you with some single-line text or attributes or anything like that. Although you can make attributes multi-line. That gets a little bit more complicated. We won't go into that quite yet. Okay, I'm going to erase that Z, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to select Insert Field. A lot of the time you can also use Control F. That might not work in all places, so if one doesn't work, try the other. Insert Field. What have we got here? We've got a big old long list of fields. This is all. You can sort these by category and just show date and time, document, linked, objects, other, plot, and sheet set. I don't think I actually selected plot, did I? No, I didn't. Let's fix that. Go back to sheet set. I am not going to go into sheet set. Why? Sheet sets are complicated enough for at least one video tutorial on their own. I'm not going to try and push that all into this one. Generally speaking, most of the intelligence built into sheet sets is done using fields, although a lot of it's automated for you, so that'll help. But we have to start with the basics. And let's go back to the list of all, and I'm going to scroll down to title, which you may have noticed if you had a keen eye and were paying attention when I first got in here. It gives a preview up here, and title is set to Doodles Tutorial. I've got it set to all uppercase, all caps. You can format that in several different ways as you see here. We're going to stick with the all caps default for CAD users, which annoys everyone that we have ever instant messaged with. Believe me, we know. Doodles Tutorial pops up there, and you'll notice it has this special little background here. There is a system variable called Field Display that when it's set to 1, it'll still be highlighted like that. In fact, if I type in Field Display, you'll notice it's set to 0, and if I type 1, see it highlights it. I find that kind of gets in the way, especially in some of the blocks that use multiple fields for sheet sets. It just gets messy. So I'm going to set it back to 0. But it should always show up with a background when you're in the various editors. That includes the attribute editors as well as the regular text editors, to let us know that that is a field. You might not want to mess with it because you're going to be destroying some of the intelligence that you already built into these drawings. Okay, where is it grabbing this Doodles tutorial thing from? Does it just happen to know? Is it really smart and it knows I'm doing? No, it's not that advanced. What it has is a link to the drawing properties, which if you type DWG props, because like just about everything in AutoCAD, it's got an abbreviation that you use on the command line, you will see Doodles Tutorial is in the title box field over here. There are options for subject and author and keywords and comments and hyperlink base, which is, I'm not going to get into that. You can look it up yourself if you're interested in using it. General tab has a lot of the basic file information that you would find by right-clicking on any file in Windows Explorer or whatever programs you use on Mac, the two of you who actually do AutoCAD Mac. And any of that information that you can also usually sort by in Windows Explorer will show up here. Summaries, all the stuff I just told you about. Statistics, created, modified, last saved by. These are the things that you can't generally edit. It's all done automatically in your file system. And there's also a custom tab where you can add your own properties. So let's add current mood, and the value is going to be peachy keen, because I'm feeling peachy keen today, as long as I don't think about the fact that this is actually being recorded on a Sunday, and it's already close to 9 o'clock at night, which means my weekend's almost over, and you guys know what that means. Horrible. But if I don't think about that, I am feeling peachy keen, so that's what I'm going to set that property to. A custom property of my own, and if I go back and edit my mtext, let's edit that field, and if I go back to, well, I don't even have to go back to all because it's actually a document property. You'll see that there is current mood right here and peachy keen. If you ever want to set up a special title block that has some custom properties, that's one way you can do it. Of course, there's also the option of sheet sets, but like I said, not going to get into that quite yet. This is a nice step along the way, and there might be some other instances in which you might want to use some custom properties such as that, especially if you want to keep them hidden. And maybe just put them in a non-printing layer off to the side, information to share with other users, that kind of thing. Anyway, we've seen how to access those. Now let's see what happens if we go back into our DWG props and edit these. Let's edit the current mood to be, oh yeah, Monday. That is my current mood now that I'm thinking about the fact that the weekend is almost over. But it still says peachy keen. Why does it still think I'm feeling peachy keen? Does it just not know what's going on? Doesn't AutoCAD like to update automatically? Well, fields are actually a little bit more resource intensive in the background. If you had a lot of them and AutoCAD had to update every single one of those fields every single time you did any commands, it would be a mess. So there is a special system variable called field eval that controls how often these fields are evaluated. Mine is set to 31, which is also the default in most of the versions of AutoCAD that I am aware of. And what that is a bitcode, which gets into Boolean logic stuff. I'm not going to go into depth explaining it because either you're nerdy about that kind of stuff like I am and you already know, or it bores you to tears, and I don't want to bore you to tears. So instead, I will just open up the Autodesk help page, the Knowledge Network, and that is for field display, and that's the tab on Chrome that has field eval. These are all the options. 0 is the nothing. It's not really an option. It's a lack of options. And here are all the bitcodes. You'll notice that these go up by powers of 2. That's how it can add any arbitrary sections together and get a unique number. You're never going to have 2 possible combinations that end up with the same number. That's what a bitcode is all about. Anyway, you can have it set for open, save, plot, e-transmit, and regeneration. If you add all of these numbers together, you get 31, which is the default and also what I am using. And that means that if I regenerate my screen, view, regen, it will go through all of the fields that you have and re-evaluate them. That's what the field evaluation is all about. And also it will do that when you save, and it will do that when you e-transmit, just like we went over. And again, you can change that so it's different. But don't expect these to update automatically every single time you just exit out of the text editor or insert block and then change whatever it's linking a field to. It's not going to happen that way, only during those special events. So now we have a basic understanding of what a field can do and how it works. Let's see a couple of other options that we could use this for. Let's try a block. I'm going to go into my block editor and I've got test field. That's my special block. It doesn't really do much of anything. It's just a way to show you that these can work in blocks as well as in regular text. There is one big caveat for all of you folks out there. If you use mtext or single line regular text inside of your blocks, they are not going to update because AutoCAD does not go that deep. When there is text or multi-line text, I'm just going to say text from now on, and you know I mean both, inside of a block, once that's set, that is part of the block. That's how it is. That's what blocks originally were and how much of blocks still works. You put the stuff in and that is all part of the block, the way it was when you made it. There are, of course, various dynamic properties that we have gone over in the past that you can add into a block to make some things that can change. And the other way you can have unique information in a block is to put in an attribute. Attributes are designed to be something that you can edit on a per block insertion instance. So all the properties of the block are the same except for the attribute. That is also what we need to use if we are going to put some fields in our blocks and we want them to update properly. So what I have here is a simple attribute. Notice that one of the properties is preset yes. Preset is what you want to have toggled to yes if you want to make sure that when you insert a block, you don't get that prompt for filling in the attribute value. Since these are going to be using fields and all this is going to be done automatically, you don't want the user to enter in information. It's just going to override your fields and get rid of all the built-in intelligence, and well, that's just a waste of time. So let's not do that. Let's instead edit this, and it has no default value right now, so I'm going to go ahead and right-click and insert a field. And let's see, one of the special things that you can do is you can access your system variables. Field eval is in here and field display is in here, I believe. Pretty much all of your system variables. Now, obviously, many of these system variables have no rational use inside of an AutoCAD block. But if you want to prove me wrong and think of a good use for a random system variable, please leave a comment down below and show me what you've done. One that I can think of a good use for offhand, though, is CTab. If you don't know that one, it refers to the current tab or model or a layout name in your drawing file. As you can see, the current preview is for model because the block editor is part of model space. Or maybe it's because I entered the block editor from model space. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, model space is where we're at right now. So we're going to close that out, save the changes, zoom back out to extents, and I'm still not sure why AutoCAD does that strange zooming. I'm not sure if it's related to UCS follow or what. I'm going to go insert a block, insert the block that I just created, which is test field, and let's just put it over here. And I did make it annotative, by the way, just so the size would show up better. You don't really need to get into that either at the moment. So it says model. That's what we would expect, but now I'm going to go over to this A01 tab, and I've already got one here, but in case you don't believe me, I will erase it and insert it again, and boom, it says A01. That can be changed if I rename my tab to, we'll just do that. Of course, it didn't update automatically. Once again, we have to do either a save or a region. I'm going to do save this time just to change it up a little bit. And now the text in here says, just as you would expect based on the changing value of the tab's name. Of course, that can be useful if you are trying to set up title blocks and you don't want to go all the way to making sheet sets. That means you only have to change your information in this one place, and it's nicely displayed for you, and it'll update automatically in the title block itself if you have a field set up for CTab. Of course, you do not have to build all of this intelligence into the block itself. I could use either a field in mtext or a block. I'm going to go ahead and use the block, and I can link it to some other objects in my drawing. I'm going to go ahead and draw just a simple rectangle here, and I'm going to open up my block, and again, I could do this with something else if I wanted to. I'm going to edit the field, and let's see, there's the objects field category. I'm going to select a particular object, and that object is going to be the rectangle I just drew, and I can have it do the area reported to me. Let's click that, and it says 346. So now if I alter this polyline's size, and I go back, of course, and do a regen, it will update based on the new area. Of course, the area itself might not be the most useful thing in the world, so let's edit that field, and let's do a formula. Let's say you have a material that for every square foot weighs 100 pounds. So 100 pounds divided by 144, because that is 12 squared, since I'm actually in inches for the units in this drawing, and we want it to be based off of square foot. And then we multiply that by insert field. Yes, you can inceptionize your field insertions. You can go deeper. I am going to select object from here, select that object again use area, and it gives me decimal, and it's 524 just like it was before. OK out of there, and we're back to this. I'm going to hit evaluate and force it to do the math, and again I'm going to want some different precision than the default, and let's go ahead and say 0, because to the nearest pound should be fine. Click OK on that, and now we have something that should hopefully keep updated with this rectangle. Once again, you still have to do a regeneration or a save. And there we go. We've got a little built-in weight calculator. Isn't that nifty? Finally, we have one other option, and I'm going to have to go back into the block editor for this particular one that I want to show you. We're going to edit the field again, and we are going to use the block placeholder. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, most of what defines a block is defined in the block editor and is going to be the same for every single block. But there is a little bit of information it has to store about every single insertion of that block. Obviously, there are attribute settings, as we have gone over previously. But there's also the position that you insert that block at, the layer you put the block on, the color, all of these various things that you can change the properties of for every single object in your drawing can be changed for every single inserted instance of a block. And your block, using fields, can actually refer back to those as well. So let's do a simple one, position. I've only got the Y value selected here because I'm going to give an example where we don't care about X and Z, and I'll show you why in just a moment. I've got it set to architectural, and let's click OK out of there and close this up and save the changes. Now, of course, since these were attributes, it's not going to affect any previous insertions. Attributes are one of those few things that get their own properties and ignore the basic definition once they've been inserted. So we have to insert a new copy. I'm going to put it on the top of this pile of bricks, basically. I've got 12 feet worth of bricks, and what's it going to give me? It gives me 112, 0. 112 feet, 0 inches, and that's because this floor line that I've got here in my drawing is actually drawn at 100 feet, 0 inches up on the y-axis, and I've gone 12 feet above that, and that gives me a total of 112 foot, 0 inches. As you can imagine, this can be useful for things like an elevation mark, and I'm going to show you mine. Where is my elevation mark? It is right here, and it is a dynamic block that has some additional properties in it, and I should probably get this out of the way so it doesn't mess with things here. Make sure we can take a look at it. And if I go to edit this block, you will see that I have a couple of things here that say do not edit. That is because this particular block can be inserted so that it's either going off to the left, like it is now, or off to the right. And unfortunately, one thing that you cannot do when you are mirroring various parts of a dynamic block is to change the insertion point of your attributes. If they are inserted in the lower left and you mirror them, they're going to have the point where they are inserted into the lower left mirrored. So in order to get that kind of thing to work, I have to have two sets of attributes for everything that displays the left-hand version and the right-hand version. And what I have done in this particular block is to have the master versions of the things that you do want to change, and then the ones that actually display just refer back to those masters. So I can type something in here, top of wall, and automatically it should update with some regenerations. But here's one of the little caveats you have to know. Each time you do a regeneration or an e-transmit or any of the things that are going to trigger a field evaluation, it's going to go one level. So with what I've got here, we've got multiple levels. So the first time I regen, it's going to do some of it, and then it might do the rest on a subsequent regen. Sometimes it works all at once, sometimes it takes a couple more regenerations. Just something to keep in mind. But as you can see, when you add in all of the various dynamic block things that you can do, such as stretch points and arbitrary points and all that stuff, and your left and right mirroring using lookup tables and all that stuff, and you add in some intelligence as to where that block has been inserted at using fields, you can make yourself a nifty little combination. So there you have it. That is a brief overview of some of the stuff you can do using fields, especially when you combine them with other dynamic block properties. And I hope you guys find it useful and experiment for yourselves, because as we saw, that list of properties you can access is huge. You will probably be able to think of at least a couple of things that have never occurred to me that might help make your life a little easier. And I hope I've done the same for you, and I will see you guys next month.